How long will Iran allow itself to get kicked in the nuts before Israel loses its shit? If Iran does anything, it's cooked, no matter how restrained, in my opinion. Israel kind of needed it for the PR, so we'll escalate immediately. Yeah. I mean, Israel has brought this upon themselves, but of course, no one will see it that way, no matter what happens. My suspicion, this is not speculation, I'm not like 100% on it, but my suspicion is that like Iran will probably blow up an embassy or some shit, okay? An Israeli embassy specifically. Okay, here's the 3-minute ad break now. Bill Boneless, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. I still don't understand what HasanAbi did wrong in predicting Russia v. Ukraine wrong. Like it was a prediction law. It don't matter. It don't matter. I am anti-America in my criticisms. I'm anti-State Department propaganda in my criticisms. And if you get something wrong, even remotely, the people that get things wrong professionally will constantly bludgeon you in the head over it. They still do it. So I am using very careful language. Okay. Is there no global repercussion for bombing a foreign embassy? Not when you're Israel. Not when you're America either, but Israel is an extension of America. So that's how it works. Okay.
That Iran could do that in the coming 24 or 48 hours. I've talked to various intelligence sources in the region.
We'll cover the what happens if Israel goes to war with Iran.
Understand, and this is what we're getting from a lot of different sources, that Iran is poised to respond. Now, of course, this could be Iran intentionally disinforming, putting disinformation out there just to create the sense of jitters among the Israeli public here, among the leadership in Israel about precisely what they'll do. And it's unclear what they'll do. Will they respond and strike back directly to Israel themselves? Will they use proxies to strike into Israel? Will they strike Israeli interests elsewhere in the region? That's a question on people's minds at the moment. But that strength and show of unity and support between the United States and Israel is on display today at the Hatzor Air Base in the south of Israel. The CENTCOM commander, General Eric Kurilla, there with Yoav Gallant, the Israeli Defense Minister, the Deputy IDF Chief of Staff, also there. So this is very much a message of unity and strength and preparedness. So this is what we heard from Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, the IDF's spokesperson, just last night.
I mean, it is kind of confusing. This coverage is kind of confusing, all things considered, because honestly, they are, I mean, some of the other coverage that we saw yesterday was like, Iran is going to fuck around and find out. Like, you still get that kind of like, talk shit, get hit, Iran, which is ironic because like Israel started it literally by striking their embassy. But, oh, here's Biden, who just said he expects an attack sooner rather than later. I mean, it's going to happen this weekend is what everybody's saying.
Mr. President?
I want to get a secure information, but my expectation sooner than later.
Yeah, he said the expectation is sooner rather than later, just now. Breaking news. Israel is hoping Iran will respond so they have an excuse to attack Iran's nuclear facilities. Yeah, but like a broader conflict with Iran that draws the United States of America into it is going to not be beneficial for Israel's long-term existence in the region. I don't think that Iran itself is like a super powerful country, but they are significantly more powerful than Hamas is. They have actual missile capabilities. That's a whole standing nation. Like, think about it this way. Israel has a hard time dealing with Hamas as it's doing ethnic cleansing, right? And then you level up a little bit. You look at Hezbollah, which Israel has lost to in the past, which has its own military. You look at another regional player like Yemen, which has withstood genocide, but at least like they have some semblance of autonomy and are not like Hamas at all. And with the limited capabilities that the Yemen population has, they've been able to shut down the Red Sea. Okay? A little bit goes a long way as long as you are willing to take actions in this region. Okay? You're talking about Israel trying to deal with dudes who make bathtub rockets. When I say bathtub rockets, I'm not joking. They literally make their rocket launchers like by hand. They make their sniper rifles by hand. They use bomb parts that Israel has bombed in the region to basically make this shit, to whip it up. So if Israel's having a hard time with them, and America is having a hard time with the Houthis, okay, a much broader conflict is going to be devastating not only for Israel, but for the entire globe. Why? Because Iran is a whole-ass nation state. Iran is a whole-ass nation state that has been outside of the orbit of American influence for multiple decades, almost half a century. I mean, more than half a century at this point. Almost a century at this point. So clearly, they are propped against this sort of thing. This is like the reason for the existence of these incredibly. This is the reason for this incredibly fucking. Oh my God! Is this the new meta? What's happening here? It is the new meta, isn't it? Anyway, I don't know why I'm fucking paying attention to these dumb fucks. Okay. Indian chatter here, are you basically saying that Iran is lying too, sir? No, I've always had this notion that I repeat regularly, which is that war with a whole ass fucking state is not fought on how many people do they have, what are their capabilities versus how many people does the other side have and what are their capabilities. All war is about attrition, okay? And countries that are more authoritarian or have withstood sanctions for many, many years are going to be able to withstand attrition for much longer. They have more mileage because their living conditions are already dog shit for the most part, okay? That's why when you look at Israel's actions, Israel's military actions in the region, or when you look at Israel's ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza versus the way that Hamas operates, you recognize that like they can get away with dying by the tens of thousands, even if you were to hit like Hamas commanders or whatever. It's not the same as killing one Israeli soldier. That takes a much larger toll on Israel. It's more expensive for Israel. There's more of a psychological toll on Israel. When Palestinians, all they know is death and destruction, and they have nowhere else to go, they're going to fucking sit there in a tunnel and wait. They can wait out Israel's ethnic cleansing. The same to a certain degree goes for Iran. Now, obviously, the Iranian living conditions for the average citizens is much better than Palestinians. But Iran also has a shit ton more capabilities as far as missile systems and also where they can hit those missiles. While Hamas cannot operate and has never historically operated outside of Gaza, right? And maybe to a certain degree in the West Bank every now and then, Iran can hit Saudi Arabia. Why is that significant? Because if you hit Saudi oil refineries, you all of a sudden are making this a much broader conflict for the rest of the planet. Iran has struck Saudi refineries in the past. Saudi Arabia knows this. Saudi Arabia knows that this is a genuine capability of Iran. We're not even talking about just the axis of resistance against Israel and America. We're talking straight up Iran potentially blowing up oil refineries and shutting down the Saudi capabilities. All of a sudden, there's an energy crisis for the rest of the globe. Okay? This is a major problem for everyone. It's a major political problem for the Western world, which is grown comfortable. Did you watch the Hakim video on Iran? No, but I would love to watch the Hakim video on Iran. Anyway, so this is very important to understand. Okay, this is very important to understand. Yemen targeted Saudi, not Iran. Important to note that Iran is not simply a state actor, but a regional power. Yes.
Speaking about how prepared Israel is for whatever threat comes from Iran.
We're highly alert and prepared for a wide range of scenarios and are conducting a situational assessment. We're ready in both defense and offense with the various IDF capabilities and strategic partners.
Like, think about it this way. It's especially tricky for Europe, who are literally only just recovering from the cutoff from Russian oil. That didn't even officially happen. Like, utilizing non-Russian mediators to get Russian gas and oil literally made Russian oil more costly, right? It made Russian oil and gas more costly for Europe, and even that had a political toll. So when you think about it, like, we in the Western world are kind of weak due to our comfort, due to the living conditions that we are used to experiencing. It's weakness from the framework of, like, if we are thinking about war as attrition, the country that is invading, or the country that is facilitating an invasion, the country that is facilitating an invasion thousands of miles away, has much more to lose, even when their comforts are taken away. Bro, who's weak, lol? The United States of America is weaker as a whole because of a couple different reasons. One, we have some semblance of democracy, or an attitude that we have a belief that we have a theoretical democratic process in place. That is weakness if you're thinking about war. Bad analysis again. Woo! You're right. That's why historically the United States lost in Vietnam. The United States lost in Vietnam because of exactly what I just mentioned. We lost in Vietnam because we were fucking thousands of miles away doing death and destruction to a foreign population, and it went on for 20 fucking years. That's the same reason why we lost in Afghanistan. Okay? We had to pull out. Strongest military on the fucking planet. Why do we have to pull out? We had to pull out. No, it's not because the Vietnamese were better fighters. That's not true. It's because the Vietnamese had nowhere to go. It's because the Vietnamese had no other option but to defend themselves. And the Vietnamese also had less and could do more with less. When you are fighting against people, and no, it's not just that the Vietnamese were farmers. You had obviously you had the North Vietnamese army as well. Like, you had many different factions. You had, weapon systems and whatnot. They got support from the USSR. There are important factors in here. Obviously, their military capabilities were ascetic in comparison to the American military machine. But ultimately, the reason why America has lost time and time and time again against enemies that are significantly weaker than it is because there is a political toll when you are fighting and when you are doing imperialism. There's a limitation to how much imperialism you can do, because once it starts hurting back home, you go, all right, we got to dial this back a little bit. That's it. Yeah, Israel and Iranian GDP are somewhat similar, but Israel is completely dependent on foreign aid from the U.S. Iran is the power in the region that supports others. It's the regional big dog. Yes. So this is very important. You need to understand. Americans have more to lose. When you're fighting against someone who has less to lose than you, they have a significant upper hand. Okay. Americans have more to lose. Israelis have more to lose than the Palestinians. And therefore, the Palestinians have an upper hand in this regard, even though the military capabilities of Israel, obviously a nuclear military state, is insane. Like, you can't even compare bathtub rockets to Merkava tanks, right? And yet, you got dudes popping out of fucking holes in the goddamn holes in the bottom of fucking every meter in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip, and just lobbing grenades bypassing their trophy systems on the Merkava tanks. Is crazy. You have to remember that. Do you really think democracy makes people weak? No. But democracy makes you weak if you're trying to do war. If you're a warmonger, yes, a democratic process is going to hurt you, because domestically, it is, once people's living conditions suffer even a little bit, they're going to be like, what the fuck are we doing? Why are we doing this? Yes, that's how it works. Chat will remember that. Yeah. Democracy makes war harder, which is why, we kind of shut off a lot of the democratic pressure valves in times of war historically, That's how it works in civilization. Yeah, I'm not operating off of Civ. I'm operating off of just normal human history. It's not that democracy makes the individual weak. It makes the leader's authority weaker. Yes, exactly. You have to convince your population to go to war, while an authoritarian regime just doesn't. Except it's not just that. Democracy and prosperity makes you weak, okay? Prosperity also makes you weak, because when you are a nation that is comfortable, like the Western nations on this planet, okay, your population is used to some level of treats. And if those treats get cut off, you're like, whoa, what the fuck? Chill out, bro. We got to dial this shit back. I want my fucking treats again. Okay? That's my point. Same with the Israelis versus the Palestinians. Okay? I mean, I've been saying that. I've been saying that since the beginning of this fucking conflict as well. But America as a whole isn't prosperous right now. No, America is infinitely more prosperous than the global south that we extract natural resources and labor power from. What the fuck do you mean? Get your head out of your ass for a moment. I'm talking about the labor aristocracy. I'm talking about the comfort that the average American citizen has, okay? The average American citizen is in an infinitely more comfortable place than the average citizen anywhere else on the fucking anywhere else in the global south, especially. You know what I mean? Big part of that comfort also comes from the never-ending imperialist agenda, the never-ending war, the military-industrial complex. All right, let's keep going.
Strike coming from Iranian territory will clearly prove the Iranian intentions to escalate the situation in the Middle East and to stop hiding behind its proxies.
And I think you get a level of the understanding of how this concern is shared jointly between the United States and Israel, the State Department and the embassy here, warning staff not to stray beyond the sort of Tel Aviv area, Jerusalem area, Beersheba area. Stay in those areas. The concern is it's just not clear what Iran's move is going to be, the sense that it could be soon, Wolf.
Yeah, there's a lot of concern, and those the U.S. Embassy and other embassies in Israel as well are issuing warnings to their citizens to stay put, basically, and start worrying about the potential, let's hope it doesn't happen, about the potential of this war escalating big time between Israel and Iran. Natasha, I want to go to the Pentagon with you for a moment. The top U.S. military commander in the Middle East, the commander of the U.S. Military Central Command, is in Israel right now. We just heard Nick talk about that. What do we know about his trip, the coordination that's going on between the United States and Israel in anticipation, in fear of a full-scale Iranian retaliatory response?
Well, Wolf, Eric Kurilla, the top general for the Middle East, he did say that the U.S. and the Pentagon did say also that the U.S. stands with Israel against any potential attack that Iran might launch against the Israelis. And President Biden made this very clear as well, that they are in constant coordination with the Israelis to prepare for the possibility that they do launch some kind of attack directly on Israeli soil. And according to a readout from the Israeli side, General Eric Kurilla, he did meet with Yoav Gallant today to discuss.
For the record, Israel has stated, I don't know if they would follow through on this, but Israel has stated that if Iran strikes them in any capacity, they are already doing military training with the Cypriot military for striking Iranian targets inside of the Iranian state. So Israel has said that they will increase the pressure. Okay? Not like not taking pot shots against IRGC leadership or other axis of resistance forces in Syria and in Iraq, and also against Hezbollah in Lebanon, okay, in southern Lebanon. Israel has violated a couple red lines. Israel has crossed a couple boundaries. First, obviously, the escalation and going into Gaza and doing ethnic cleansing. Okay? But if these other regional actors consider Palestinian lives to be at least remotely expendable, there are a couple other red lines that Israel has definitely crossed that violate, like, that rational actors in the region have to respond to. Because if they don't actually respond to it, then Israel has shown that they will continue going harder and harder and harder. These red lines are striking Beirut. Israel has in the past struck Beirut, but very limited. Okay? But striking Beirut is a major escalation. Okay? Striking Beirut is a major escalation against Hezbollah and against the Lebanese state in general. Another even more major red line that was crossed was this past week when Israeli forces bombed the Iranian embassy compound in Damascus. Okay? When you do that, you are basically hitting Iranian territory. They took out a bunch of higher level IRGC people, but you are not allowed to do that. You can't, like, there are rules to this sort of thing. Okay? So when Israel is operating like this, other regional actors have to do something. Consulate, not embassy, sorry. The consulate compound. But, like, you have to do something. You have to retaliate, or else Israel has shown that they will continue escalating over and over and over again. And that is the predicament that Israel has placed Iran in. That is the predicament that Israel has placed every other regional actor in. Okay? They are belligerent. They are striking blindly at anyone and everyone they can. And I think their ultimate goal is to try to draw the United States into a broader conflict against Iran. I think that's the reason why they're doing this. Now, if I can make this speculation, then I'm assuming American State Department operatives can make this speculation as well, as they have a shit ton more information and more knowledge. More direct, on the ground knowledge, like espionage capabilities are much better for the State Department than someone like myself. They're getting direct information from Israel. They know better. Okay? So, yeah, they have intelligence, like direct intelligence, and they communicate directly for with the Israeli state. So, if I can see it, they can too. So if they can see it, why are they not reining Israel in? Why are they not making assurances to Iran that they will rein Israel in? And I think therein lies the heart of the conflict within the American State Department. From the beginning of October 8 and Israel's latest siege into Gaza, there have been people within the American State Department that are saying that Israel is going to go above and beyond, and we have to be more careful because they are going to over leverage and abuse our unconditional allegiance. This is why many State Department people obviously were very agitated, and some even quit, right? Over the Biden administration's like no red lines, unconditional bear hug support to Israel. That's why you saw a lot of resignations. And that's why you saw a lot of people who are still in the American State Department that are very critical of the Biden administration. Now, let me explain something to you. And you have to understand this. You have to understand something. Those in the American State Department do not care about Palestinian lives. Their interest in reining Israel in has nothing to do with saving Palestinian lives. You need to understand that. Their interest is because they see the writing on the wall. They recognize that Israel going above and beyond like this in the most belligerent way possible makes them look weaker to the rest of the world, makes them look weaker to the global south, that they can't rein in their own attack dog. So politically, it limits our soft power capabilities. And if Israel destabilizes this region with a much broader conflict, drawing Iran in, all of a sudden you reach the bar of like maximum gun sales and you go above it. Because obviously chaotic circumstances are great for capital owners. They can always find a way to make money in a situation like this. But too much chaos, well, when you have too much chaos, all of a sudden profit margins are going to go down. Okay? And I think that the State Department interest, or at least those within the American State Department that are trying to rein Israel in or trying to urge the Biden camp to scale this back dramatically, okay, see that Israel has reached critical mass, a terminal velocity, if you will, okay? Because the market will be great until one moment where it's no longer great, okay? However, I do fear that that point has probably been passed. Here is the executive vice president of the Quincy Institute, Trita Parsi, and his analysis on Israel and America's allegiance. Biden is about to drag America into a war with Iran on behalf of Israel. The disastrous way he has handled matters since Israel bombed the Iranian consulate in Damascus shows that any shift in Biden's policy on Israel was all talk, no walk. Okay? Here's a short thread on Biden's latest cave to Netanyahu. According to the U.S., it was not given an adequate heads up for Israel's carefully calculated bombing of the Iranian consulate in Damascus. This is a major violation. Okay? The fact that Israel is not telling America that they're bombing Iranian soil is insane. Okay? Not only is it obviously illegal, it is very dangerous because of what we are seeing right now, what is happening right now. But it's ridiculous. It makes America look weak again. It's not just disrespectful, which it is. It makes Biden look weak, but it makes American soft power. It limits America's soft power capabilities because now everyone else goes, well, you can't fucking control Israel. Why the fuck would I listen to you? It kind of pierces the veil of American hegemony. Okay? Not only was it a flagrant violation of the Vienna Convention, but it also risked, perhaps intentionally, ending the fragile truce between the U.S., Iran, and Iran-aligned militias in Iraq and Syria. By that, Israel directly and knowingly jeopardized American security and put U.S. troops at risk. Indeed, and this is, again, remember, this is from the perspective of the American State Department, okay? This is not my opinion. His analysis is talking about this from the framework of American hegemonic power and American safety and security, okay? Two very different things, because my opinion on the matter is obvious. I think Israel is an illegal, abhorrent, genocidal apartheid regime that is arrogant, and its arrogance and its hubris will lead to its demise. Okay? That's entirely different from what I am talking about right now with respect to how some American State Department officials are viewing the situation and recognizing that our unconditional allegiance with Israel has caused them to go above and beyond and try to bring about try to draw the United States into a much larger conflict. They crossed several red lines, as you said, but attacking Iran's consulate in Damascus was a strategic move because Syria and Iran have a close-knit relationship, and that embassy is a very crucial point of contact. At the same time, it is Iran's soil they attacked. Netanyahu made a big whoopsie here. It's not a whoopsie. They did it deliberately, I think. Iran is going to attack Israeli soil as well. Whatever happens, happens. Also, Iran does have nukes. Okay, well, I don't know if Iran has nukes or not. We don't know about that. But it is a war crime. It is completely unacceptable. You've said multiple times this can lead to Israel's demise, and I don't understand how we get here from that point. America needed to pull out and pull the exit valve 1 million times before this moment, for the record. If America had been a little bit more restrained in its unconditional support for Israel, perhaps Israel wouldn't feel like they have the bandwidth to be able to do this kind of thing. Okay? It was a major strategic misstep made by zealots. Okay? People like Biden and their unconditional support to Israel has caused Israel to think that they could get away with being this belligerent and even draw the United States into broader conflict. This is entirely in the hands of the ultra-Zionists within the Brandon camp. Okay? A normal and appropriate response from the President of the United States would have been to strongly rebuke Israel for jeopardizing American security. This was not an act of self-defense by any stretch of the imagination. Condemn the attack due to its violation of a key tenet of international law, and use that even-handedness to also press Iran to show further restraint. That did not happen. But this is not how Biden operates. Even when Israel undermines U.S. interests and security, even though Biden knows that Netanyahu has an interest in prolonging and enlarging the war, which Biden has declared contradicts U.S. interests. Instead, Biden refused to condemn Israel's escalation and flagrant violation of international law, another major reveal of how meaningless Biden's rules-based order talk is, and effectively blocked the UN Security Council for condemning it as well. But perhaps most shockingly, Biden then goes on to give Israel another bear hug, another standing green light, by repeatedly stating that U.S. support for Israel is ironclad. So instead of rebuking Israel for jeopardizing the safety of the American troops in the Middle East, Biden rewarded Israel. And by that, he deprives Israel of any incentives to avoid pushing the Middle East towards a disastrous regional war that will also engulf the United States. Biden's bear hug on October 8 helped remove any Israeli inhibitions about how it would conduct the war. Now, Biden has once again helped remove any such inhibitions about Israel starting a regional war that America doesn't want and doesn't need. Netanyahu is lucky to have such a deferential American president, and America is unlucky to have such a weak president. I think this analysis is very sound. If they had drawn Israel, if they had reined Israel in since October 8 instead of fucking bear hugging Netanyahu, it wouldn't have gotten to this point most likely. Okay? America is letting Israel roam free in this region, and Israel is a violent attack dog, striking at anyone and everyone without care and consideration for anything. Not their own, not the livelihood of their own citizens, not the livelihood and safety and security of American soldiers in the region, certainly obviously not the, humanity of the Palestinian population, but that much we knew about already. So we'll see what happens, but I don't know. I feel as though we may have crossed a point of no return here if Iran ends up striking an Israeli embassy. Even then, Israel's retaliation probably will be even more severe. Obviously, this is pure speculation. And if Israel's retaliation is more severe, then Iranian retaliation will be even more severe, and America will have to make a decision. And that decision most likely will, judging by how America has operated so far, and how quickly the media will probably say, like, well, look, see, poor Israelis are being killed by these barbaric monsters that may or may not have done 9/11 like Iran. Iran did 9/11, by the way, which they didn't, obviously. I'm joking, but, think about how quickly we latched Iran onto the axis of evil post 9/11 when they were like, the fuck do you mean we did 9/11? The guys we hate and we fight against in the region did 9/11 directly. So we'll see what happens.
Readiness for an Iranian attack against the state of Israel, which may lead to regional escalation. So clearly all sides here are bracing for the possibility that this escalates into a full-on conflict between Iran and Israel. However, U.S. intelligence assessments, as we reported a little bit earlier in the week, they assess that this is more likely to be carried out by Iranian proxy forces in the region rather than from Iran directly. And that is for a number of reasons, but most prominently is because the Iranians don't necessarily want to get involved in a full-blown war with Israel that the U.S., as they have stated publicly, would then come to Israel's defense with. So the Iranians trying to kind of temper their response, according to our sources. However, it is very possible at this point, according to intelligence assessments, that these Iranian proxies carry out attacks against Israeli assets in the region. And so all sides kind of bracing for that, and importantly, how Israel is going to respond, because that is also going to inform just how much this conflict escalates, Wolf.
So, Natasha, just to be precise, if Hezbollah, an Iranian proxy in southern Lebanon, starts launching rockets and missiles, bombs towards Haifa, Tel Aviv, elsewhere in Israel, the Israelis presumably would respond big time against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, try to destroy their capability, but it wouldn't necessarily attack directly Iranian targets in Iran. Is that the U.S. understanding as well?
Well, it's not clear just whether the U.S. would characterize an attack by an Iranian proxy against Israel as an attack by Iran itself. The U.S. has made very clear, of course, that the proxies are only able to function and really survive because of Iranian support for them. But at the same time, it would definitely be a layer removed from Iran itself if the proxies were the ones carrying out these attacks. However, Israel has said that they are going to respond forcibly to whatever kind of attack they are faced with by Iran or its proxies. And so it just remains to be seen how exactly this is going to play out.
Very important, very worrisome developments unfolding right now. Natasha, thank you. Nick, thanks to you as well. I want to bring in CNN military analyst, retired U.S. Army Lieutenant General Mark Hertling. General, thanks so much for joining us. As you know, officials are telling CNN they expect Iran will respond imminently, keyword imminently. Do you think Iran is likely to strike Israel directly, or could that happen through a proxy like Hezbollah, for example, in Lebanon?
Everyone's asking that question, Wolf, and what I'd say is General Kurilla is there because he's looking at what is the most dangerous course of action that Iran will take and what's the most likely. The most dangerous is a strike by Iran inside of Israel, because that could certainly cause an inflection point and expand this war. The most likely, as all of your reporters, Natasha just said, is like.
Yeah, by the way, remember, the dangerous inflection point isn't Israel striking what is functionally Iranian soil, right? That's not the inflection point. The inflection point is when Iran retaliates for being striked by Israel.
Likely an attack by any number of proxy groups, whether it's Hezbollah in Lebanon or any of the PMF forces in Iraq or Syria or in the area. So that's what General Kurilla, and probably he has some of his intelligence officers with him, as well as some of his operators, so that they can react with naval and air forces from the U.S. in case anything does happen, because the key is deterring any further expansion of this regional conflict.
The Israeli strike on that Iranian consulate building in Damascus was, about a week or so ago. Why do you think Iran has now waited this long to respond? They immediately issued warnings that they were going to respond, but they haven't yet.
Well, part of it is the messaging that Iran often uses, and they're concerned about attacking.
By the way, while they're saying that this is a retaliatory attack right now, which is definitely a change of pace from what was expected from mainstream media, which usually laps up State Department propaganda, that attitude will change very quickly if Iran does retaliate. So make no mistake, I would be shocked. I would be shocked if the United States of America actually, or American media actually didn't change tone and kept saying that this was a retaliation and not simply an escalation from Iran, making it seem like Iran just did this out of nowhere, right? Making it seem like Iran came out of nowhere, fucking swinging for the fences, like they did, like they covered October 7. You should check out the Bourdain content on Iran. He does the country justice. Okay, we'll do that later. Okay.
So far,
they're calling it a potential retaliatory attack, which is interesting. That is definitely bad PR for Israel, which I suspect is which I suspect comes from the fact that Israel is like expanded on their mileage on getting good-natured, favorable coverage over and over again with the whole genocide stuff. So especially after they killed a bunch of white people in Gaza and like triple tapped them. So we'll see.
Inside of Israel, because truthfully, Wolf, as you know, Israel's force is pretty extensive and pretty competent. They can certainly go after Iranian forces if they do these kind of things. So I think Iran is trying to get their proxies together to determine what would be the best and most effective attacks by their proxies and potentially themselves without being deterred or countered by any Israeli forces. So again, that's why everyone is on the edge to see which kind of force Iran will use and how they will use it.
Israel reportedly preparing for a new worst-case scenario, a direct attack from Iran on Israeli soil. Sources say that the strike could happen at any time within the next 48 hours. Tehran has already vowed to take revenge for last week's IDF strike on an Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria. The White House says they're taking the threat very seriously.
We are certainly mindful of a very public and what we consider to be a very credible threat made by Iran in terms of potential attacks on Israel, and that we are in constant communication with our Israeli counterparts about making sure that they can defend themselves against those kinds of attacks.
Jennifer Griffin is live at the Pentagon with more. Jen?
Dagan, I've been covering the Middle East, as you know, for 30 years, and I have never seen things so tense, with the potential for a wider war to break out between Israel and Iran, which could draw the U.S. and others into a wider Middle East war. Until now, the U.S. has been facing Iranian proxies, but in the wake of the Israeli airstrike on April 1st in Damascus that killed the Iranian Revolutionary Guard general and 6 other top Iranian commanders responsible for arming Iran's proxy groups, Iran appears appears poised to avenge that attack with a massive show of force, targeting Israeli territory. In recent days, the U.S. has pre-positioned additional military assets in the region. The attacks by the Houthis, supported by Iran, continue to threaten U.S. ships in the Red Sea. Tensions are at an all-time high. U.S. officials tell me that they have seen movement suggesting that Iranian ballistic missiles could launch any day. Israeli warplanes are patrolling the skies along the borders, and Israel's military has been put on high alert for a massive missile and drone strike that is expected to emanate from Iran. The U.S. Embassy told Americans who work for the embassy not to leave Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, or Beersheba, and to avoid travel to the north or south of Israel. The head of U.S. Central Command, General Eric Kurilla, was in Israel to meet with Israel's Minister of Defense, Yoav Gallant, who praised General Kurilla as a true friend of Israel. General Kurilla briefed his Israeli defense counterparts on the latest intelligence and is still in the region.
We're comfortable with the way we have communicated the reality of this threat and the conversations that we're having with Israel. What we are not going to sit back and be comfortable on is knowing exactly what this is going to look like. And that's why we are working so intensively to make sure that Israel has what it needs to defend itself.
What's unusual is for Iran to telegraph its response. It usually relies on proxies and terrorism, with the U.S. releasing what is clearly very specific.
It relies on proxy and terrorism.
Specific intelligence. You can't rule out that Iran will look for an off-ramp to avoid a war that could draw in U.S. forces. All eyes now on the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. And Dagan, if I could just add to your discussion on 702, we've just received a statement from CIA Director Bill Burns, an urgent statement about the 702 FISA vote that is upcoming. And he explained how crucial this 702 war, basically to renew it, is for the U.S. intelligence community. He said that they would not be able to track the Chinese networks that bring fentanyl through Mexico and up through the border into the United States. They could not have killed al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri. They could not have stopped or found the network that attacked the Colonial Pipeline. So this 702 legislation needs to be renewed, and without any amendments or warrants, because it would be so dangerous otherwise. Dagan?
Thank you so much, Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon. Paul, to you first on this. Jennifer mentioned China. The United States is essentially bankrolling Iran because Joe Biden and company.
Bro, we're so cooked. The way that we fucking operate in this country is so crazy. Like, dude, this is the most, remember, this is the most popular news network, okay? Read my messages, brother. What? Don't take the fent away. We need more. Don't take the fentanyl away. We need more. M are the best. I love fent. It was a joke. Why are you asking me to read your message? You didn't even fucking pair that with a 3-minute ad break debate at the top of the hour, by the way, which is a misstep in my opinion. My man was like, please, dude, you have to read what I have to say, which is, I love fentanyl. You know what I love? The top of the hour ad break and avoiding the top of the hour ad break by subscribing for $5 or for free. Okay? If you also love avoiding the top of the hour ad break, then subscribe for $5 or for free with Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, where you get one free Prime subscription a month. Okay? This way, you will spend your $5 wisely instead of putting it in the fentanyl fund. A1 since day one. Thank you for the 5 community gifted subs. Allowing 5 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. I don't know what the going rate is for fentanyl. And I don't intend to learn what the going rate is for fentanyl. You can also subscribe with your Amazon Prime account being connected to your Twitch account, where you get 1 free Prime subscription a month. There, you can use that there, or get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Use a 3-minute ad break now. Using upper decky or lower decky? I'm an upper decky boy. I've never done lower decky. That's crazy. I used to chew lower deckies though. When I was a chewer, chewing tobacco, that is, I would lower deck it.
Have not done everything in their power to drive down the price of oil and to stop the export of Iranian oil, particularly to China. We have not even sanctioned Chinese buyers of Iranian oil, which the Republicans in the House have tried to do.
Yeah, and we also sent them pallets of cash, right? So we haven't made Iran feel they need a real pain here. And
we did not do that. That's bullshit. That's not real. It's also not real. We unfroze assets that they were supposed to get paid for selling oil to South Korea. And we unfroze those $6 billion of assets and sent it by way of Qatar. We did not give them pallets of cash. It was their money. Is their money, and the fact that we were able to stop South Korea from paying Iran for oil that they had purchased is insane. But of course, that's how it works when we are the #1 country on the planet, baby.
I'm going to go back to what I would argue is the original blunder, which is this. Subsequent to the original attack, the United States took a step back and operated essentially through the media and through pronouncements. At the same time, the Hamas leadership resides in what is nominally an American ally, Qatar. And we have left their operational control, command and control in place. Where is the case on them? Hamas is a designated terrorist group. Why aren't we treating them the way we treated ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and everybody else? Indict the leadership, tell Qatar, get them on the tarmac in JFK tomorrow. Otherwise, you know what? You're going to have a problem with us because they have 4 or 5 major American university campuses there. We have a major military base. Our biggest one in the Middle East is in Qatar. We have plenty of leverage there. We haven't used it, and it's one of the reasons why Iran is so empowered.
The Wall Street Journal today, Emily, writes, Biden remembers that Iran is listening, and they say the following: abandoning an ally in wartime is an invitation to its enemies. And in essence, that's what Biden and the Democrats have done or started to do to Israel in recent weeks. He threatened to withdraw support Biden did for the Israeli war effort. You had 40 and up to 56 House Democrats threatening to cut off weapons to Israel. And what happens? Well, Iran is emboldened.
That's right. We demonstrated to the world how Biden responds and behaves to our allies in Afghanistan. We set the plate, we set the table right then. The reason that, as Jennifer Griffin frighteningly points out, that we are the closest to a Middle East war than we've been in decades is because there's been a failure of deterrence, because our president has a fear of escalation that has eclipsed any show of strength. When you have a leader in the Oval Office that has no backbone, that is afraid of ruffling feathers throughout the globe and throughout the Middle East, that is afraid of showing support for allies rather than in exchange for capitulating to enemies, essentially, this is what happens. The fact that it's in the Supreme Ayatollah's court right now and he's making a decision on what exactly to do, it shouldn't have gotten that far. If you're in a bar and you see a really big guy with spikes on his knuckles, you're not even going to get to the point of talking smack to him. You are deterred. The globe right now is on the brink because this person in our Oval Office has not made it clear what would happen if things happen to our allies, or should I say maybe he's made it clear what will happen.
I just don't understand how you look at, like, You look at the situation on hand and you go, no, we got to fucking bomb further, bomb harder. Like it just feels like when you look at mainstream media, right? The liberal outlets are saying like, well, this is an escalation and a retaliation, but like Iran is still the big bad. And then you look at Fox News on the right-wing side of media and they're just like, Brandon is weak because he hasn't nuked the Gaza Strip personally and nuked Iran as well. It just goes from like decent but kind of still bad on shaky ground to, oh my God, how are you saying this? How are these words coming out of your mouth? When in fact the answer is that de-escalatory bombing doesn't work, by the way. This was demonstrated once again in Yemen. When you operate on the delusion that violence is strength, especially when you consider every non-American subhuman, it's just like, it doesn't make any sense. I think they're just spitting here because they think either that like the American capabilities are impossible to shake and impossible to defend against, or they just don't give a shit. Like they don't think about what will happen as a consequence of like if America were to follow the Fox News line and greatly escalate violence in the region and go in full blown with our current unconditional support to Israel, like level up our unconditional support to Israel. I don't think they're thinking about like what that means for the American economy. I don't think they're thinking about like what that means for American safety and security. They're just wildly sitting there calling Biden a pussy. That's it. I don't think that the American government is operating on this level, even though there are definitely people in the Brandon camp that are operating like this. Please, we have to nuke Iran. Please, just nuke Iran one time. Please, a nuke would be so sick. Like the dudes that have that attitude definitely do exist in the State Department. I mean, I don't know.
Which is nothing.
Oil is up so far this year. It's soaring today.
Like they're complaining about oil prices. What do you think a fucking regional conflict will do to oil prices, dumbass? What do you think?
About 20%. That's enriching Iran. It is giving Iran more money to fund terrorism and fund its proxies. And if this administration is not doing everything to drive down the price of oil and cut off oil coming out of Iran, again, we're funding as a nation those very terrorism and the death of Americans.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Joe Biden has thrown Israel to the wolves over a few votes in Michigan. So, like, what you think we're expecting a little too much?
If Biden was more restrained with Israel, Israel would not be in the fucking wolves, quote unquote. I mean, Israel would not be in this current predicament because Israel would recognize that they can't get away with like blowing up fucking Iranian embassies, man.
From this man. I mean, ask yourself, when you hear Joe Biden speak, does he project strength? Nope. You're like, I've interviewed a lot of generals, intelligence officers, foreign policy experts for my podcast, The Truth with Lisa Booth. And the one takeaway you'll get is that a lot of foreign policy comes down to human nature, right? It's that playground mentality, particularly when you're dealing with the authoritarians and terrorists. It's a show of strength. Right. And we went from being the big guy on the playground that people were afraid to under Donald Trump to getting your lunch money stolen and stuffed into a locker under Joe Biden. And so the only way to bring peace and stability to the world again is electing Donald Trump. And we were told
XP 9011, thank you for the 25 community gift. This
the guy couldn't be trusted with the nuclear codes. Now he's the only one we can trust, you know, and so that's the only path forward. I mean, everything that guy did was a show of force, whether it's taking out Qasem Soleimani, sending those 59 Tomahawk missiles to Syria, the mother of all bombs, the list goes on. So that's the only way to get peace.
Yeah, totally. You know what was really sick? You know what was really sick that Donald Trump did? Throw away the Iran denuclearization agreement and make sure that Iran understands that, like, there is no denuclearization. We are going to put sanctions, and we're going to keep adding sanctions on, even if you follow through on the conditions, which Iran did continue following through on, until they were like, okay, well, I guess we're going back to fucking upping our nuclear capabilities. So if Iran has a nuke now, that is entirely in the hands of Donald Trump. I don't know if they have a nuke or not, but if they do have one, it is definitely Donald Trump's fault. Okay? Just something to consider. So that's a major misstep on that front. Donald Trump's actions with the Abraham Accords was also directly linked to the October 7 attacks. Time and time again, especially since Bill Clinton, we have told Israel to do whatever the fuck it wants. We are not going to pull back. We are not going to pull support. How do you think they got to this incredibly arrogant and incredibly violent state? We let them. Okay? We let them. Meanwhile, Germany is out of control, by the way. The Berlin police, ironic, I'm wearing a Polizei sweater right now. The Berlin police arrested the spokesperson for Jewish Voice for Peace in Germany, Udi Raz, as horrified onlookers shout "never again" amid the scenes so reminiscent of Germany's Nazi past/present. Also, German police arrested citizens of the Berlin airport holding signs saying "Let Dr. Ghassan Abu Sitta in." German authorities banned Dr. Ghassan Abu Sitta. Remember, he is a plastic and reconstructive surgeon who was operating inside of Gaza until recently, until he had to evacuate. Okay? Germany is fucking out of control. They've lost their goddamn minds. Okay? Anyway, let's get back to this Iran-Israel shit.
Peace and stability back into the world.
Yeah. Carly.
Yeah, I mean, this is significant for several reasons. One of them is that it's expected to be a direct attack from Iran, not an Iranian proxy. And what does that mean for the United States? Well, there are a lot of American citizens still living in Israel. So what happens if American lives are lost in this expected attack? Where does that put us in terms of escalation between the United States and Iran? What will that mean in terms of the future of the war? So that is different. That could potentially be an escalation. In many ways.
By the way, this picture, 1,000 words, dude. True Anon Pod posted this. Antisemitismus ist verboten. Judenhund. Like arresting a Jewish guy in Germany for calling out the Palestinian genocide that Israel is doing is fucking insane. And the dude has Trump hair too. It's just like, no, I know what hund means, dude. Mehmet is Jewish. Yeah, this is Mehmet posting. He's Turkish, but he's, I guess, allowed. I know that what that means. Incredible stuff coming out of Germany right now. Back-to-back genocide champions or genocide losers, I guess. Dude looks like John Hitler. This is so fucking insane to me. Like, I see this and I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Are you not thinking at all about how this looks? They're just like, I don't know, man. Germany has been spiritually, the German state has been spiritually not all right. Okay. I've been talking about this for a minute now. I know that there are obviously a lot of German leftists in the chat. They get like kind of mad when I mention this stuff, but I mean, this is a ridiculous sight, okay? This is a fucking ridiculous sight. Liberals love talking about optics until it's optics about them looking like Hitler. Yeah. As my Holocaust survivor grandfather always said, Germany never stopped being a Nazi state. I mean, yeah. By the way, German media is spinning it, saying police cracked down on a gathering of anti-Semitic Israel haters. That's pretty funny because, you know, this photo is pretty crazy. Talking about them sabotaging the electronics of the Palestine Congress and then shutting down the event after a few hours, even though it was supposed to go till Sunday. What is the whole context here? Did he trespass or something? What? No, man. No. 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 The context is that DM25 was live streaming. There was a Palestinian Congress. Here. Let me finish this and then I'll talk about it, okay?
Ways, though, this situation is somewhat more of the same because Iran already funds Hamas and Hezbollah, two terror groups that are already fighting in Israel right now. And that is one of the main reasons why stopping the sanctions against Iran and taking the foot off the gas of the maximum pressure campaign was such a grave mistake.
We have, remember, Hamas has Americans.
Yeah.
And Iran knows that, and they've seen our response.
So
great point.
That's
Great
Biden's
point.
policy. Money to Iran and refuse to change course even when U.S. troops suffer traumatic brain injuries or are killed. For more than 3 years.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe.
I love setting my DVR.